Sometimes I feel like all the advice on how to stop worrying kind of makes you worry more.
Yeah,
Like it's almost too much information,
right.
and you end up feeling kind of overwhelmed and stuck.
Well, it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah.
You look for solutions to your worries,
Mm-hmm.
but then the advice itself can be a source of stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why today we're diving deep into a classic,
Okay.
How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by
Right.
Dale Carnegie.
Oh, yes.
And we're going to pull out the best techniques
Okay.
so you can actually use them.
I like how Carnegie focuses on changing your mindset.
Yeah.
It's not like there's one magic solution.
Right.
It's about shifting how we see and react to stuff.
Exactly. And he starts with this great idea,
Okay.
living in day-tight compartments.
Tight compartments.
Yeah, so he tells this story
Okay.
about Sir William Osier. He's a really famous doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and he learned to stop worrying by focusing on just the present moment.
Interesting.
He was inspired by a quote from Thomas Carlyle, and he said, "Our main business is not to see what lies dimly at a distance,
Right.
but to do what lies clearly at hand."
So true.
Such a great quote.
It is.
So basically, take that huge feeling of everything
Yeah.
and just break it down.
Into smaller pieces,
Yeah.
like manageable chunks.
Yeah, think of an hourglass.
Okay.
Only one grain of sand
Right.
can go through at once.
Mhm.
You try and force too much through,
Yeah.
it's just going to get stuck.
Totally.
And it's the same with worry.
Makes sense.
So, think about how you can apply this to your life right now.
Okay.
What's the one thing you can focus on?
Mm-hmm.
Today,
Okay.
in this moment.
Okay.
Maybe finishing a report
Mm-hmm.
or making a phone call you've been putting off.
Yeah.
Or just taking 10 minutes for yourself
Mm-hmm.
to just breathe and relax.
Right.
What would it feel like to just let go of everything else just for now
Yeah.
and just focus on one achievable step?
That's a great way to put it. The date-tight compartments idea helps shift your attention away from the huge, overwhelming picture
Right.
and towards something you can actually do right now.
Exactly. But what about those big worries?
Yeah, the ones that are hard to ignore.
Yeah, that feel impossible to ignore.
Right?
Well, Carnegie doesn't just tell you what to do.
Okay.
He gives you a formula for dealing with them.
Okay.
So there's this engineer named Willis H. Carrier,
Okay.
and he was facing this huge business disaster
Uh-uh.
that could have cost him $20,000.
Oh, wow.
But he didn't panic. He decided to embrace the possibility of failure.
Interesting. So that's where his 3-step method comes in.
Yeah, so first you figure out the worst possible outcome.
Okay.
Second, you accept it mentally.
Okay.
And third, you just calmly focus on improving upon the worst.
So you're mentally preparing yourself for the worst case.
Yeah, and then working from there.
It's interesting how accepting the worst case
Mhm.
can actually free up your mental energy.
Right, because when you're constantly fighting against the possibility of something bad happening,
Yeah.
you're using up all your energy on worry,
Exactly.
and you have none left to find solutions.
You're just stuck in that worry cycle.
Exactly.
And by accepting the worst,
Mhm.
Carrier released that anxiety
Yeah,
and could focus on actually solving the problem.
and guess what?
What?
It worked.
Oh, wow.
Instead of losing $20,000,
Right.
he turned it around and made a $15,000 profit.
So he actually made money from it.
I know, it's amazing.
It is.
Just shows that sometimes our fear of the worst
Yeah.
is actually worse than the thing itself.
Right, because it's all in your head.
Exactly. And Carrier's not the only one who used this technique.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was this New York businessman who used it to escape blackmail.
Wow.
And even more dramatic,
Okay.
Earl P. Haney, he was diagnosed with terminal ulcers,
Oh, wow.
and he decided to embrace the time he had left.
Okay.
The doctors told him to avoid all the things he loved, but he went on a world cruise.
Wow.
He indulged in all his favorite foods
Sounds nice.
and just lived life to the fullest.
So he just accepted it
Yeah.
and decided to enjoy life.
It's like by accepting the possibility of dying,
Yeah.
he actually found a way to truly live.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
And that leads to another important principle,
Okay.
the power of keeping busy.
Keeping busy.
Carnegie says that our minds can only focus on one thought at a time.
That makes sense.
So if you fill your mind with engaging activities,
Right.
worry doesn't have space to take hold.
It's like occupational therapy
Yeah.
for your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Remember when Winston Churchill was asked about the pressure of leading during World War II?
Oh, yeah.
He just said, "I'm too busy. I have no time for worry."
That's a great attitude.
Yeah.
I like that.
Even simple things can help.
Yeah, like what?
Well, there was this grieving father named Marion J. Douglas,
Okay.
And he found comfort in building a toy boat for his son. That focus on a task gave him a break from his worries.
Yeah. It's like taking your mind off things by focusing on something else.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Yeah, and it just shows how powerful it can be
Right.
to just keep your mind occupied with something positive.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated.
Right. Even small things can make a big difference.
Totally agree.
So find something you enjoy and just dive in.
Yeah, get lost in it.
Yeah, and watch your worries fade away.
I love that.
It's worth a try.
It definitely is.
So what are you waiting for?
I know, right?
Go find something to do.
Yeah, and get busy.
Exactly. So we've talked about date-type compartments and that 3-step formula.
Right?
But there's this other idea I find really interesting.
Right.
It's called cooperating with the inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not about giving up,
Okay.
but more about accepting the things you can't change.
Right.
And then focusing on what you can control.
Yeah, you got to work with what you got. It's a big shift, though, going from, like, fighting against things to just accepting them.
Right.
There's this inscription from the 15th century
Oh, wow.
in a cathedral in Amsterdam.
Okay.
It says, "It is so. It cannot be otherwise."
Wow. That's pretty deep.
It is, right?
It makes me think about when I was a kid.
Okay.
I lost a finger in an accident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a farming accident, actually.
Oh, no.
Pretty traumatic at the time.
Yeah, I bet.
But eventually I just had to accept it. Like,
Wow.
there was no point in dwelling on what I couldn't change.
And that acceptance helped you move on?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like this woman, Elizabeth Conley.
Yeah.
She lost her nephew in World War II.
Oh, that's terrible.
It was, but instead of just being consumed by grief,
Right.
she started helping others.
Okay.
It gave her a purpose, and it helped her heal.
Like she found something positive
Yeah, exactly.
to focus on.
Exactly.
So think about your own life.
Okay.
Is there something you've been resisting? A situation you wish you could change?
Yeah.
What would it look like to just accept it
Okay.
and focus on what you can do?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
It is.
It is.
And it leads to another principle.
Okay, what's that?
It's called putting a stop-loss order on your worries.
Stop-loss order.
Yeah, Carnegie compares it to the stock market.
Interesting.
Like you set a limit on how much you're willing to lose
Right.
on an investment.
Mm-hmm.
So we should decide how much mental energy we'll give to a worry.
Okay, so you're basically setting boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right. You got to recognize when you're like overpaying
Yeah.
for your worries
Right.
in terms of your well-being.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like those guys, Gilbert and Sullivan.
Oh, yeah, the composers?
Yeah, they had a huge falling out
Oh, really?
over something so trivial.
What was it?
The cost of a carpet for their theater.
Oh, wow.
They let this little disagreement ruin their friendship.
Talk about overpaying for a worry.
Yeah. I used to do that with writing projects.
Oh, yeah.
I'd agonize for months over stuff that just wasn't working.
You were, like, stuck in that cycle.
It took me way too long to realize I was sawing sawdust.
Sawing sawdust.
Yeah, it's a Carnegie term.
Okay.
Like I was putting so much effort into something that was already gone.
You got to know when to let go.
Right. And once you realize that,
Yeah,
it's so much easier to move on.
totally.
So what sawdust are you clinging to?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like what past hurts or regrets are you still trying to saw through?
And what would it feel like to just let them go?
It's such a powerful image, right?
It is.
Sawing sawdust.
Yeah,
It really shows how pointless it is to dwell on the past.
you got to focus on the present.
Exactly.
It's in the future.
Right. And that brings us to the heart of it all.
Okay.
Cultivating a positive mental attitude.
Oh, yeah, that's so important.
Carnegie was a big believer in the power of our thoughts
I agree with him.
to shape our reality.
Our thoughts shape our reality.
Yeah, he loved this quote from Marcus Aurelius.
Okay.
Our life is what our thoughts make it.
So true.
It's not about pretending problems don't exist.
Right.
It's about choosing how we react to them.
You got to choose your mindset.
Exactly. It's a difference between being concerned about something
Mhm.
and being worried sick about it.
Like, there's a healthy level of concern,
Right.
and then there's just being consumed by worry.
Exactly.
Think of Lowell Thomas, the broadcaster.
Oh, yeah.
He had such a crazy schedule.
I know, right? Traveling all over, interviewing people.
Yeah, but he always stayed calm.
And even kept his sense of humor.
He chose to focus on the positive.
Right, instead of letting stress take over.
That's a great example.
And then there's Frank J. Whaley.
Okay.
He had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, wow.
But he realized that it wasn't the external situations
Right.
that were causing him suffering.
It was his thoughts about them.
Exactly. And once he changed his thinking,
Yeah.
he turned his life around.
So it all comes back to our thoughts.
It really does.
Yeah.
And here's a technique that might sound kind of weird.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, William James, the cytologist,
Okay.
he believed we can control our feelings
Okay.
by controlling our actions.
Interesting. So, like, even if you don't feel happy,
Yeah,
act like you do.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
smile, engage with people,
Yeah.
do things you normally enjoy.
Even if you don't feel like it.
I might feel forced at first,
Right.
but your feelings will catch up.
That's cool.
It's like that saying,
What's that?
motion creates emotion.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
If you want to feel happier,
Mm-hmm.
act like a happier person.
Makes sense.
It's simple, but it works.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's like those people who are always complaining.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they're attracting more negativity.
By focusing on the negative.
Exactly.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, and on the flip side,
Yeah.
if you focus on the positive,
Mhm.
you attract more positivity.
You got to be grateful for what you have.
Exactly. Gratitude is so important.
It is.
Schopenhauer said,
Okay.
we seldom think of what we have, but always of what we lack.
That's so true.
And that focus on lack
Yeah.
is what breeds worry and unhappiness.
Makes sense.
There's this amazing story about Eddie Rickenbacker.
Oh, yeah. The World War I pilot?
Yeah, he was lost at sea for weeks.
Oh, wow.
And he said the biggest lesson he learned
Okay.
was that if you have food and water,
Yeah.
you have no reason to complain.
Wow, that puts things in perspective.
It really does.
Yeah.
And there was this wounded soldier on Guadalcanal
Okay.
after he found out he would survive his injuries
Mm.
and be able to speak again.
Wow.
He wrote to his doctor,
Okay.
then what in hell am I worrying about?
That's amazing.
It is.
It really is.
It shows how our worries can seem so small when we
Yeah.
focus on what really matters.
Right, we get caught up in the little things.
Yeah, like we forget about all the good stuff.
Like the 90% that's going right.
Exactly.
Remember John Palmer, the businessman?
Yeah.
He was so worried about his business
Mm-hmm.
that he was neglecting his family.
Oh, wow.
And it took a disabled veteran
Okay.
who had way more reasons to complain
Right.
to wake him up to all the good in his life.
It's a reminder that our perspective shapes our reality.
It really does.
So let's talk about finding ourselves.
Finding ourselves.
Carnegie talks about how important it is to be authentic.
Like embracing who you really are.
Yeah, instead of trying to be someone you're not.
Right. Be yourself.
He tells this story about Sam Wood.
The Hollywood director.
Yeah, and he said the hardest part of his job
Okay.
was getting actors to just be themselves.
They all wanted to be like someone else.
Yeah, they want to be copies of other stars.
Instead of originals.
Exactly.
That's so common, though.
It is, right.
Like, people are always comparing themselves.
I'm trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And it's not just Hollywood.
Right. It's everywhere.
Yeah, like in job interviews.
Yeah.
People try to give the right answers.
Instead of just being themselves.
Exactly. And interviewers can tell
Oh, yeah.
when someone's being fake.
Totally. Authenticity is magnetic.
It is.
Think of Cass Daly.
The singer.
Yeah, with the buck teeth.
She tried to hide them at first,
Really?
but her mentor told her to embrace them
Smart mentor.
as part of her charm.
And it worked.
Yeah, she became a star.
Because she was herself.
Exactly. So are you trying to be someone you're not?
That's a good question.
What would it feel like to just embrace your true self?
Your quirks and all.
Yeah, what unique talents are you hiding away?
Don't be afraid to shine.
And sometimes embracing yourself
Yeah.
means embracing your struggles.
And turning them into opportunities.
Exactly. Which brings us to...
The classic turn lemons into lemonade principle.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Carnegie quotes William Bolitho.
And he said, "The most important thing in life is not to capitalize on your gains. Any fool can do that. The really important thing is to profit from your losses. That requires intelligence, and it makes the difference between a man of sense and a fool."
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is, but it's so true.
It is.
He also tells the story of Ole Bull, the violinist.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
During a concert, his A string snapped,
Oh, no.
but he didn't panic.
What did he do?
He just finished the melody on 3 strings.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is right.
He turned a setback into an opportunity
Exact
for creativity,
and resilience.
like those prisoners at Sing Sing.
Okay.
The warden said they found peace and happiness
Wow.
in prison.
That's amazing.
They learned to make the best of a bad situation.
So what lemons are you dealing with?
Yeah, what challenges are you facing?
How can you see them as opportunities for growth?
That's a great question to ask.
It is.
And it leads us to finding faith.
Finding faith.
Yeah, which Carnegie talks about a lot. But before you think it's about religion,
Right.
it's more about finding meaning and purpose
Okay.
and connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Like cultivating inner peace.
Exactly.
Even William James the pragmatist
Right?
said he needed God more and more as he got older.
Wow.
It's about finding that inner strength
Right.
that helps you through tough times.
It's got resilience.
Yeah. And Carnegie tells this story about Mary Cushman.
Oh, okay.
She went through so much during the Great Depression.
Oh, wow.
Her husband was sick.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their home.
That's awful.
They couldn't afford food.
And then what happened?
Her son was falsely accused of stealing.
Oh, no.
It was like the breaking point for her.
Yeah.
But then she found comfort in her faith.
Okay.
It wasn't about ignoring her problems,
Right.
but facing them with a new sense of strength.
And hope.
Yeah, and it changed her whole outlook.
That's powerful.
She was able to handle those challenges
Yeah.
with grace and dignity.
Because of her faith.
Exactly. It's about finding that anchor that helps you through the storms of life.
That source of strength.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next technique might seem counterintuitive.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's welcoming criticism.
Welcoming criticism.
Yeah, it sounds kind of crazy.
It does.
But Carnegie says it can be helpful.
For growth.
Yeah, if you approach it with the right attitude.
Like, you got to be open to feedback,
Exactly.
even if it's negative.
Think of Ben Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
He was always asking his critics for advice.
Really?
He wanted to understand their perspective.
So he could improve himself.
Exactly.
And Charles Luckman, the president of Pepsodent.
Okay.
He would read all the critical letters,
About his company's radio shows.
even though they were spending millions on them.
And had stars like Bob Hope.
Yeah, he understood that even successful people
Right.
can benefit from criticism.
It's about being humble
Yeah.
and knowing you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Like if everyone's always praising you,
Mm.
you might be in an echo chamber.
Right.
Criticism can help you see your blind spots.
And we all have blind spots.
We do.
So we've talked about a lot today.
Yeah, we have.
And I know it's a lot to take in,
It is.
but I want to emphasize one thing.
Okay, what's that?
Preventing fatigue.
Preventing fatigue.
Carnegie talks about this a lot.
Because it's important.
It is. Because fatigue leads to worry.
When you're tired, you're more likely to worry.
Exactly. It's
You're-
like when you're running on empty,
Yeah.
every little thing feels like a crisis.
You're just not as resilient.
And Carnegie talks about learning to relax physically,
Okay.
which sounds easy.
But it's not.
It's not, especially
No.
in today's world.
Right. Everyone's so busy.
Yeah, and stressed.
There's this technique from Dr. David Harold Fink.
Okay.
He says you should talk to your body.
Talk to your body.
Yeah, he says when we can't sleep,
Mm.
it's often because we've talked ourselves into insomnia.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he says to tell your muscles to relax.
Like consciously,
Yeah, say things like, let go, loosen up.
and that'll calm your mind.
Exactly.
I've tried that, actually.
Really?
And it kind of works.
It does.
And then there's exercise.
Oh, yeah, classic advice.
Carnegie tells a story about Theodore Dreiser.
Okay.
He was a novelist,
Mm-hmm.
and he cured his insomnia
Okay.
by working on the railroad.
Wow, that's a drastic solution.
It is. But it shows the power of physical activity.
Yeah, even if you're not doing manual labor,
Right.
find something you enjoy.
Like gardening or swimming.
Or dancing, or even just walking.
Yeah, anything that gets you moving.
It helps clear your mind.
It does. And don't forget about sleep.
Oh, yeah, sleep is so important.
If you can't fall asleep,
Mm-hmm.
try Dr. Foster Kennedy's eye-rolling trick.
Eye-rolling trick.
He noticed that soldiers would fall asleep
Mm-hmm.
with their eyes rolled upward.
Okay.
So he tried mimicking that, and it made him sleepy.
So he basically tricked his body into sleeping.
Yeah, it's weird, but it works.
Our bodies are amazing.
They are.
Sometimes we just gotta give them a little push.
Speaking of pushes,
Okay.
let's talk about embracing a simpler life.
A simpler life.
This one really resonates with me.
Okay.
Carnegie tells this story about RVC Bosley.
Okay.
He found peace and contentment
Okay.
living in the Sahara Desert.
The Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
Wow.
He compared the peace of the desert
Okay.
to the craziness of Western life.
Like our busy modern lives.
Exactly. He said our hurried and harassed lives
Mm-hmm.
are what make us anxious and unhappy.
That makes sense?
It's a stark contrast.
Yeah.
But it makes you think.
Right.
Like, what aspects of a simpler life appeal to you?
Yeah.
Could you simplify your schedule
Yeah.
or declutter your home?
spend more time in nature.
Yeah. Even small changes
Mm.
can make a big difference
It's about finding that balance between
Duh.
being busy
in having peace.
and, remember, embracing a simpler life.
Yeah.
doesn't mean becoming a hermit.
Right. You don't have to go live in a cave.
Exactly. It's about making choices
Right.
that bring peace into your routine.
Like setting aside time for meditation.
Yeah.
Or unplugging from technology. Or just enjoying the little things.
Like the simple things in life.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from what we lack.
To what we have.
Yeah, and from what we want to achieve in the future.
To the present moment.
Exactly.
It's about finding those moments of stillness amidst the chaos.
And recognizing that happiness is often found in the simple things.
The everyday moments.
Yeah. It really makes you think about what matters.
It does.
And that's what I love about this book.
Yeah.
It gives you these tools for dealing with life.
Right. For those ups and downs.
For shifting your perspective.
Exactly.
So you can take control of your worries.
Instead of letting them control you.
Right. And as you go through your day.
Okay.
Remember that soldier on Guadalcanal?
The one who asked, what in hell am I worrying about?
Yeah. After he found out he would be okay.
Right.
It's a good reminder to keep things in perspective.
It is.
What feels huge today might be tiny tomorrow.
And even if it's not, you can handle it.
Right. You don't have to do everything at once.
Just pick one technique.
From this deep dive.
Yeah, one that speaks to you.
And try it out.
Small changes can make a big difference.
As long as you're consistent.
Exactly.
And if you slip up,
yeah,
don't get discouraged.
just gently bring yourself back to the present moment.
Back to what you're doing.
You have more power over your thoughts than you think.
That's a good reminder.
It is.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up.
Yeah, it is.
This deep dive into how to stop worrying and start living.
Has been great.
It has. We've learned so much.
Practical techniques.
Inspiring stories.
A new way of thinking about challenges.
So go out there
Yeah.
and start living.
Embrace the present moment.
Be grateful.
And remember, you're stronger than you think.
And if worry creeps back in, take a deep breath. And ask yourself,
Yeah.
if worry is based on fear of things that might not even happen,
Right.
how can I trust myself more?
And trust the process.
Because in the end,
Yeah.
it's about trusting ourselves.
And believing we can handle whatever comes our way.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive,
It's been a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.